Hello, and welcome to episode 21 of the Disconnected Gamers podcast, where we reconnect with life and gaming. I'm one of your hosts, Andrew, also known as J-Bond. With me, as always...
People already know who I am. We need to, let people know who our guest is.
Well, but you should probably just say your name, because we always say...
People know. My name's Mike. You know who I am.
There
Don't worry
we
about
go.
me. Don't worry about me.
We have a guest today, Billy Harper, who is...
Yes.
Are you the lead animator or an animator? Can we just pretend you're the lead animator if you're not?
Well, the great thing about Sucker Punch is like we don't really give a shit about titles that much, and so it actually depends on the occasion, like what my title is. Cause
So today you're the president of Sucker Punch.
today I am the president of Sucker Punch. No, I'm the executive janitor. That's what I am. No, on past titles, I was the I guess what you would consider animation director, and now moving forward, I'm kind of doing more of like a widespread character and cinematic supervision type of role. So it's fun. I'm getting to like branch out and
Do more stuff.
yeah,
Stuff,
yeah, get more fingers in pies that hopefully don't get too sticky.
I like that. That's I don't know if that fits on a business card, but that sounds really good.
Yeah. Yeah, on my business card, it actually says emotionalist. That's my title.
That covers a lot of ground, so I think that's a
Yeah.
good one. I like it. So I was just gonna start it out with like a bunch of basic questions, just totally like favorite Super Nintendo game.
Favorite Super Nintendo game? Okay, so I could go with the obvious Super Mario Brothers, and that wouldn't be a lie because it was actually a game that my now wife and I would play when we were dating. But there's another game that I think I'm gonna say is my favorite, mainly because of the obscurity of it, and it's a game called Deja Vu.
I have not heard
Never
of it.
heard of it.
I was
yeah.
trying to think of a deja vu joke, like, I swear somebody said that to me yesterday.
Well, there it is. That was the joke. That was good.
Yeah. See, I was hoping you were going to, when you started saying obscure, I was like, Illusion of Gaia. It's somebody else who knows what this game is.
I let you down. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Deja vu is a good one because I've never heard of it, so that means it is obscure.
It was this really cool text-based game. Well, it was a branching narrative sort of game. Choose your own adventure, and you wake up in a stall, a bathroom stall in a bar, and there's some clues scribbled on a roll of toilet paper, and your holster is hanging up in the stall with you, and there's a gun, and you basically have to figure out who you are and what happened to you. It was pretty fun.
That sounds kind of cool.
Sounds cool. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. What about you guys?
For Super Nintendo,
Yeah.
between
Illusion to Gaia.
It's Illusion of Gaia, but probably A Link to the Past. Zelda: A Link to the
Yeah.
Past. That's a
Mhm.
tough
Yeah.
one. Tough one to beat.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, I actually just today bought, which is probably why I suggested Super Nintendo first. I actually got into a slight eBay bidding war over Super Mario All-Stars. It's one of the few Super Nintendo games I don't have that I wanted.
Which version though?
What do you mean, which version?
Well, because there's a version I think with lost levels.
The
and I think
lost
there's a
levels.
version
I think it's
without lost levels.
I think it's the one without lost levels,
Okay.
but it's okay.
Oh.
I have I'm the youngest of 5, so I have. We've never sold anything back. We never sold games. We never sold them back. Traded them in. So I have everything from when my oldest brother had an NES to current day.
Oh, good on you, man.
Yeah,
That's badass.
The only thing I'm missing is a Sega Saturn, a Sega CD, and a Wii U, and I literally have every single console from NES to present.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I'm gonna turn the tables on you, man. Favorite console of the out of the Nintendo family.
Out of the Nintendo family?
Yep.
Well, see, I could easily say Wii U because it's got Virtual Console, which is limited. but it would give me a lot of my games. I think I'd have to go N64. Just
thank you. Yes.
It would just be too hard. It would be too hard to be Super Nintendo gave me A Link to the Past, but like N64, I've got Banjo-Kazooie, I've got GoldenEye, I've got basically every game Rare ever made.
Every game Rare made.
Yeah, seriously. And then there's the funny thing about those. One of my favorite Tetris games, like Tetris Next, was on Nintendo 64, and as well as Tetris Sphere. And they were like two of my favorite like puzzle games. And then Mario Tennis.
Mario Tennis.
Mario Tennis is a jam.
Right?
Wow, what's that expression like? Out in left field, the out in left field choice, Mario Tennis.
Yeah, out of nowhere. I'm saying all this, and Mario Tennis. Woohoo!
You know what though? The Mario Tennis games were actually really good, so I can't even deny it.
Yeah.
No,
really?
I have so many games. Like I have over 100 NES games. I probably have between 30 and 40 each in Super Nintendo and N64, but I think N64 would definitely be the choice.
Oh man, you're hardcore.
And you got 4 controllers, so like you can have 4-player.
Yep. There was so much that they did, and it's actually funny because it's kind of a bit of a segue to other stuff, coming up, like with VR, which was the thing that I loved about N64 was they had a console. They came out with like the new controller, and it was a different thing, right? I mean, it was like you actually had like the joystick in the middle, and it had like the 3 handles. It was this really like weird thing at the time, and they actually didn't announce just like the hardware itself. It was they announced Mario 64. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is an awesome app for the new hardware. And I just think they did so much right in like how they rolled that whole thing out. And that's it's funny because that's what I'm looking for when it comes to VR right now. Like I'm waiting to find out. I'm waiting to hear about like a killer app that you're like, oh, okay, this is the reason
why everyone wants it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, because you've got Oculus and we've got an echo.
Am I echoing? You're echoing.
I hear it. I'm not sure.
You sound.
It's not me.
No, both you guys sound good to me.
Weird. Because I just hear an echo. Are you using headphones?
No, I'm not.
Maybe that's why. Maybe I'm coming through. If it's, I don't know. Yeah, like Oculus and Morpheus and all this virtual reality stuff. Nothing makes me want to buy it yet.
Yeah,
and there's that company that's making the custom chairs that like so that you're sitting in a chair, but like you'd feel it spins 360, so that like because obviously if you're wearing this thing and you're walking around, you're gonna probably knock yourself out.
Yeah.
So I don't. Have you ever seen the movie First Kid with Sinbad?
Yeah. Okay. When he was the bodyguard?
Yeah, when he was the bodyguard. And he was in that virtual reality thing in the mall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I want it to be. But it's not going to be that. Like, that seemed real. He was in this little ring thing, and he must have been walking on some sort of movable platform, I guess. 'Cause how did it register he was walking?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say you've got this big ass like helmet and a big ass toy gun thing, and like that's it. That's what every time anyone says VR, I'm like, that's what I want.
You know what I want when I think VR, of course, because I'm like an old man. I want Lawnmower Man. That's what I want.
Lawnmower Man?
Oh my gosh, I am totally showing my age. It was a movie that came out. I think it's like mid 80s or late 80s, and I'm totally gonna screw up my facts here, but like
wait, Pierce Brosnan?
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan
92.
And Jeff Fahey.
Yeah. I just googled it real quick.
Yeah, it was one of those where they introduced CG and oh my gosh.
Oh hey, and Dean Norris was in it too.
Yeah, That's what I want. That's what I want VR to be. Minus, the lawnmower actually chewing up the brain of of people.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be bad. But no, I think right now there's so much possibility. That's one of those things where I'm just waiting. Somebody's going to crack it. Somebody's going to come out with a just bitchin' VR app, and it'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I have to get this. I have to, But the funny thing is, you were talking about the chair itself and people like bonking around and looking all silly. Did you guys see? I think it was on Gizmodo today. They released a video, and I think it was out of Germany, where they had a like two professional soccer teams playing virtual soccer.
Oh wow.
And it's the funniest thing in the world. I mean, it's like you take professionals, and all of a sudden it goes all the way back to it looks like when my son was 3 years old playing soccer. Either that or zombies. They look like it's a cross between 4-year-olds or zombies.
So they got no coordination.
Yeah, I'm looking at like a GIF of it right now.
Are you seeing it? The one dude totally looks like a zombie. He's got his arms stretched out. I'm sorry for everybody listening. I know that this is a audio thing, but
it's
make
okay.
sure. Yeah, they need to Google that.
I'll put the link in the post when I put it on the website. That is kind of ridiculous. That is. This is why it doesn't work. You need to be in a circle. They need to just take. Well, everybody needs to watch the movie First Kid. Yeah. Watch that scene over and over again, and then boom, virtual reality. Everybody just needs to be in a pod of some kind.
Yeah.
That's the only way to make it work. You need to be It needs to be like a reverse trackball that you're standing on, so that your feet, you stay in the same place, but the thing underneath you moves, and then that's how it does the walking.
Right. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like a Wiimote, but you're just going to be walking around your room aimlessly.
Yeah. See, I think the convention I go to.
What they could do is take the same technology from the Segways, except it's just how that the gyro works as far as making you move forward.
Right, it's just
based off of the response of what you're doing physically. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to patent that shit.
You do need to patent that.
Right.
It needs to be it needs to be like a mini escalator, but but not even an escalator, like a mini moving platform. But it has to be like the Segway stuff, because it has to move when it anticipates you moving. Otherwise, you'd actually walk forward.
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things that I don't envy them trying to figure.
Yeah, it's too hard, because otherwise you have to still use a controller, because how else does it know that you've walked?
Exactly.
That's the thing that otherwise you can only you're limited based on how much room does this person have to traverse an actual area.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't seem good.
No.
I foresee a lot of broken lamps.
Yeah.
Maybe TVs.
The broken TVs with the Wii U.
Somebody's going to throw the controller like a baseball.
Yes.
It's boom. It's real
Smacked
life.
right in your TV.
Yeah. Or your friend. Catch. I'm going to throw a fastball. You didn't throw a fastball.
Oh, man. All right, so you guys are hearing, this is actually kind of funny. I got to tell you something funny. I'm at my house in my office, and I got the door closed. And I've been playing Dad of the Year today with the kids. My wife, her and one of her friends, I said, just go and ride your bike somewhere, because out here in Seattle, it's so awesome. They have such a great outdoors / beer culture that you can just go hop on a bike and basically just brewery hop or whatever.
Oh, okay. And, I thought you meant ride your bike and drink, and I was like, I feel that's got to be illegal.
That's not a good idea.
I'm not drinking and driving, officer.
it's driving a bike. It's different, and plus everybody by the end of the day, everybody's pretty hammered anyway, so nobody knows how to drive the bike straight. So they just forgive each other. They run into each other and like, oh,
they become Canadians.
Yeah, but it's crazy. So like they've been gone, and now she's back, and like all the kids are elsewhere, like hanging out. But my dog is sitting right outside the office window. And if you hear any whimpering or anything like that, I swear it's not me. It's my dog Wilson. I want to let you know.
Make sure everybody knows. He's an animator, but he's not a dog.
Yeah. I don't do voices yet. That's what I'm going to branch out into, next.
Nice.
I've been getting lessons from Troy and Travis and Laura and all those guys. Yeah.
Oh, of course. Travis is a cool dude.
Travis is a cool dude.
They're all cool dudes, actually.
Yeah.
And dudettes.
Yeah, so I got to tell you, and sorry, Andrew, you had questions and stuff, and you asked one question, and then, like, I just completely have.
That's okay. That's how it works.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Don't fight it. Don't fight it.
Yep. Just go. If you got something, just roll with it.
All right, I got to tell you one of the best stories. That wasn't me. That was my dog. I got to tell you one of the best Travis stories ever. I have a nephew. His name's Jensen, and he is a huge Avengers fan. And when we first started shooting Second Son, I was just telling him how much of a Marvel fan that I was, and my family, also other stuff like that. And he kept on. This was before they actually announced the cast for the Marvel Avengers. The Disney Marvel Avengers, and he kept on, like, all of them were like smiling, right, because all of them are in it, and my nephew's favorite character is Thor, and as soon as they announced it and Travis told me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy, and it was one of those things where I try not to, like, ask any sort of, like, favors that make anybody uncomfortable,
of course,
it's like a celebrity or whatever, but I told him, I said, man, my nephew Jensen is, like, he's a huge fan. Would you mind, like, sending me, like, a voice message of you talking to him as Thor? And he's like, oh yeah, no problem. And I was getting ready to, like, get my phone ready so he could record it and everything. He's like, no. He said, I'll do it for you. I promise. Just let me do it my way. And I was kind of like, oh, okay. Well, come to find out, it's like a few days later, he sends me this text, and he had actually, like, he has a booth at his house or something like that.
Sure.
And completely, like, just professionally recorded and everything, had this whole kind of, like, conversation, one-sided conversation with my nephew, and, like, sent it to me. And it's like, holy crap, I got to be, like, uncle of the decade.
Pretty much. It's hard to beat that.
Yeah. Nice guy, man.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's like, the guy who used to do the movie announcer, like, every, this Saturday,
yes,
or whatever, guy, before he died. My friend had sent him a letter, or probably a letter, because I don't think email would have been as prevalent at the time. Well, no, probably would have. And so he sent him an email or whatever and said, would you do the voicemail for my phone? Like, I've got a script, and he wrote him back and was like, I'll try and get to it. Got a lot of stuff, but I'll try and get to it. And so he ended up actually doing it, and it was like, my buddy's name's Mick, and it was like, in a world where Mick is not available. And he went through the whole thing. And then because he was sick, he died like maybe a month or two after it, and like we all were kind of like, that could have been the last thing he recorded. And he records it for a random stranger, like this this whole thing. And so, like, his voicemail that was the recording for his voicemail for the longest time.
Oh, that is so awesome.
But it was kind of neat because, like, I'm always like, I should just get, like, Travis to do my voicemail. You should get him to do your voicemail. There you go.
Yeah, that would be the best thing ever. I mean, we another funny thing is that at Sucker Punch, we have Caleb Moody, who is the voice of Zeke. If you call Sucker Punch and you get our voicemail, it's him as Zeke. Saying, hey, I'm sorry we missed your call. Just leave a message or whatever. Which that was a horrible Zeke.
It's all right. It's better than mine. That's See these are things that like I love about the industry though, because so many times like you don't realize how connected everybody is and like how much everybody knows everybody and how nice everybody is.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, a buddy of mine, Joe, who's now, I think he's an art director at DreamWorks, but he and I worked at EA Tiburon on NFL Street and Madden together, and super nice guy. He runs into Frank Welker, who's the voice of Scooby Doo and Freddy and like that whole Hanna-Barbera catalog.
Sure.
And you runs into the guy and I think it was like during a recording or something. Same thing. He asked him to do his voicemail greeting, and he's like, "Oh yeah, sure." And it was great because he like he did it as Space Ghost. Who he also voiced, and it's just fantastic. He was like making fun of Joe and everything, and it was just one of the best things ever. You know, somebody doing something like that is just so cool.
Yep.
Cool.
That is
awesome.
Yeah. All right.
Mike?
What's the questions?
Yeah, Mike, do you have a question? I could ask you all sorts of random stuff about like people all day, but
sure.
So wait, so which Madden did you work on?
I was on the character R&D team for Madden Next Gen when Next Gen was PS3. So I guess it was 2006.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was on the R&D team, and basically we just came up with a bunch of different new techniques for how we were going to render characters and how we were going to animate characters and all that good stuff. And then after that, I actually moved on to a different title. So I wasn't part of the production team for 2006, but I helped produce that. Remember that trailer that they did with the Eagles and the Giants and Michael Strahan tackling?
Yeah.
Oh crap! I'm completely spacing on the QB for.
I'm not a football person, so it's okay.
Okay, I am, and so that's why I'm ashamed right now.
Yeah, I know you're a huge Seahawks fan.
Oh yeah, it's good.
Do the Patriots Deflategate whole things a sore spot?
Did you see the Gronk Vine video?
No.
It was all about like the Deflategate stuff here recently, and he's going on. He's actually making a good point about. He was doing charity work, but the press just kept on about Deflategate and everything, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's a good point. And then at the very end of it, he's like, and you know what? You know what you can deflate? These nuts. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, that is yes. Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, all right. So I do have a good story here. One of our lead designers, Jeff McGann, is from Boston, and he was one of the best sports in the world leading up to the Super Bowl, because what a few of us decided to do was completely, instead of hazing him and like trying to go the obvious route of like, making him look like he loves the Seahawks, we went the other way, and we were like, it was Brian Fleming, like one of the founders. He called it Operation Super Patriot, and so what we did was over the week leading up to Super Bowl, we would just pepper his work area, his car in the garage, and even his home with Patriots stuff. Like, I literally like pulled up. I was the one that did a lot of the nighttime stuff at his house. Like, I would drive over to his house, pull around the corner, sneak up, and like I even got as brave as to take a Tom Brady poster and tape it onto his front door while he was sitting in the living room. Like, I could see him in the living room.
Window.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
Like, and that's when I was no longer the president of Sucker Punch.
I lost my job. I got arrested.
Yeah, he's like, and this is why I'm no longer allowed 30 feet within his house.
Within his house. He shot me with a BB gun.
Oh man, that's that's the kind of thing that I want to hopefully have stories one day of sticking stuff on a coworker's door and being like, yeah, take that.
The tough part is just making sure that they're going to be a good sport.
Yeah. That I can see. Yeah, especially because, that might not have gone over well. Whatever.
Yeah, then you get shot.
It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission or something, I think is the...
Yeah, it's better to ask for... Yes, that's exactly it. That's the same.
Yeah.
And, we do that a lot at Sucker Punch.
Fair enough. So, this is another question, and I saw you tweeted the other day, and it looks like a motion capture studio or something?
Oh, yeah.
So, can you tell us about that or no?
Oh, I can totally tell you about that. It's like it's actually been a really fun project, and there was a point in time I think when we first started on Second Son. When I came to Sucker Punch, one of the main things that I did was I helped establish the use of mocap. But we pride ourselves in being what we call ourselves like a little big studio, and we try to be like really smart and resourceful as much as possible. Like the Ninja Theory guys. Like I don't know if you've seen the stuff that they've been doing for Hellblade, and they're just being really resourceful. And we started using initially we were using this motion capture setup it's called the Moven. The X-Sens Moven, but we developed a process where I call it copycat, where we don't actually bind our skeleton to the mocap skeleton, and we kind of use it as like a 3D rotoscoping. See, that's not me. That's my dog.
Yep.
That means a rabbit just jumped in front of the window. But basically, it was one of those things where we were trying to be resourceful, but we kept on saying, man, it almost still feels like we're bringing a knife to a gunfight sort of thing. And as things got bigger and bigger and bigger, we kept on wanting to do something that was more ambitious. And this time around, after we finished up First Light, I was able to kind of start looking at doing something like that, at Sucker Punch, actually having a mocap volume, something that's more permanent. So that's what we said. We're using natural point OptiTrack cameras, which are really, really awesome. Like there's these guys that are in Oregon, and they manufacture everything right there on site. They have all the engineers right there. They have their own mocap volume where you can come down and check everything out. But it's still kind of in the vein of like Moven, in that like an animator by themselves can just come onto the volume and calibrate and get set up and capture themselves without even anybody else being there on the stage. So we're pretty stoked about it.
Nice.
Okay, I'm going to ignore all the stuff about the cameras and stuff and just say that sounds really cool.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't know. It sounds very cool. Whatever.
Went into full-on geek-out mode. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine by me. I mean, I'm sure somebody listening probably is like, I totally know what that is.
All right, so really quick, I'm going to let my dog in, and so he'll stop whining.
Fair enough.
And hopefully he won't knock anything over and cause like the whole thing to like crash. Hold on.
Okay.
Come on, bud. All right. Sorry. If we had the video camera here, it'd be even funnier.
Yeah. That's okay.
So.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Motion capture it's kind of neat. Like, so here's a question for you. Do you, like, when it comes to motion capture in the development process of a video game, like, obviously, like, somebody's writing the story of whatever the game is. So, like, you've got, the person who's like, okay, we've got these characters, they're going to do these things, this is what they'll probably say. Like, at what point is motion capture coming in and we're like, how would they say this? Like, what's the body language of the character when they say this? Like, or is that, like, kind of you guys figure out what's going to happen, and then like motion capture is like the last thing, because I assume it's probably time consuming and expensive to do.
Oh, well, see, that's exactly the point. Like in the past, it would completely be the latter. Like it would come in hot, like, and you would have to make sure. Well, you'd have to make sure that that everything was set and solid, and that you had all the answers, or you'd be fine with just burning through money. And what we did was we ended up putting together a setup that swaps that around and allows us to actually drop things in super early. Like the whole thing is based off of like being able to take any idea that we have and just prototyping it like super quick and dropping it into the game, because it's so fast and it's a lot less stressful that way. You don't have to be like, oh, are we sure? Are we sure? Are we sure? Okay, finally, let's do this. You can just be like, yeah, let's try this out. Let's try that out. And we get things in the game a lot faster and a lot cheaper, which is great.
Well, yeah, cheaper is definitely.
Right.
Yeah,
It's the way to go.
Well, and the other thing that I definitely want to bring up about how we use mocap is, and this is me like being like old school animator and like listening to hours of tape of Milt Kahn talking to like students at Cal Arts and talking about rotoscoping and saying, calling everybody that uses it, lazy bastard.
How about wait? I'm going to interrupt you. What is rotoscoping?
Oh, rotoscoping is basically back, like even like I think Snow White was the first, and I'm probably wrong here, but Snow White was a film where they would actually videotape and film actresses or dancers or whatever, and bring that and use that as something to trace over and draw
the cells, basically.
Yeah. So anytime you kind of like trace over the motion, that's called rotoscoping. And what we utilize is essentially 3D rotoscoping with our mocap. But it was one of the great things, like when Milt Kahn was talking about it, was he wasn't putting rotoscoping down. What he was saying was that he would see people that he's working with using it as a crutch, and he's like, don't use it as a crutch. Use it as a tool. Use it to make you better. Use it to where you learn more about, biomechanical like movement and like the beauty and fluidity of motion, but don't lean on it as a crutch. So that's kind of like a cornerstone too at Sucker Punch. Whenever we use mocap, that's why we have that whole the copycat setup, which is what we call it, where we're not hard bound to a mocap skeleton and going in and just cleaning up curves. We're going through and we're picking out like our key poses and our in-betweens and our breakdowns, and we're just kind of like taking a snapshot of those and then getting ourselves like what I call the fast 75. Like we get the timing and the general posing worked out, and then we throw that stuff away and like actually animate with it.
That's kind of sweet.
It is pretty sweet.
It's fun.
It sounds like an almost really limitless kind of way of capturing motion.
Yeah, and that was one of the that's always been like one of the key things for us, is that we always have this mixture of human animation and then what I call it, superhuman animation. And there's certain things that you just can't mocap, but there's also certain things, and this was something that I first saw utilized when I was at EA Tiburon, when I was working on NFL Street, because we had like this stylized animation, but since they were like, that's the house that Madden built, they were so used to using mocap and everything being realistic that we kind of like met everybody halfway and said, okay, well, we'll use mocap and then we'll animate over top of it to get some stylized motions. And that's how we end up, actually, we had these things called game breakers that we incorporated, which was just ordinary players in the game doing extraordinary things. And so that's where like the mocap does kind of make things more limitless, because you can do a lot more quicker but at the same time, you can still put that, the animator's eye on it.
How do you motion capture somebody climbing? Do you just like set up something for them to climb?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's actually the funny thing is when it comes to the mocap volume that we just put in, I would say ask me here sometime in the future because we haven't tried to do it yet.
Okay.
And it could end up being a bigger challenge. But in the past, that's why we used Moven because Moven is basically it's a cameraless. It's not optical. Like optical is where you have the cameras in the volume. And that was my dog. That was not me. If you guys it sounded like a fart. It was not a fart.
Sounded like a growl.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, that wasn't me. But basically, with Moven, you wouldn't have to have the cameras. You could go anywhere, and we would literally go to out here in Bellevue. They have this area called Crossroads, and they have this big park, and we would climb on the walls and stuff that they had out there in the park,
Nice.
which
I
is
like
pretty.
it. Yeah, it's well, you're just
Yeah,
like in this suit climbing stuff.
Yeah, and we
Oh,
only
yeah.
had we only had one time where a cop showed up because some parents were freaked out and yeah.
Wasn't that the time that they had like the blue guns though?
Yeah, yeah, dude, you've done your homework, man.
No, I was when we took the tour.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
I
yes,
remember
yes.
that from the tour. I remember we like you showed us where some of the mocap stuff had been done. So
Oh yeah, yeah. And when you guys came by, we didn't even have the volume set up, did we?
I don't think so. There was a lot of computers laying
Yeah.
around and a lot of
Yeah.
microphone stands.
Yeah, we know.
And
We
then
I
a spray
definitely
painting
showed
thing.
you guys that.
Yeah, there was hopefully at PAX Prime this year, I'm working on something cool. I can't talk about it yet, but I'm working on something cool. But I should be there. And maybe I can go see the studio again.
Oh yeah, you gotta swing by, man.
But yeah, Mike, I don't want to keep asking my questions if you have questions. So
Oh, no,
feel free to
like, one
fire
question-
away.
One question I had was recently there's been articles about The Witcher 3 getting leaked. I was just wondering, how do you guys at the studio like deal with any game that you've had maybe possibly getting a leak, or if it were to get leaked, what would your guys' reaction be to that?
Punishable by death.
I think like it's one of those things that is like definitely a relative. Again, it's really relevant right now. And we haven't had a specific discussion about it, but I think we would handle it the same way that Sucker Punch handles everything. We would kind of just go with it. We would figure out a way where it's like, okay, the game has leaked.
Right.
How far along were we? Where were we? Is it something where we can just actually use this and go ahead and like not let it kind of like paralyze us?
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know specifically like what we would do. I would hate if that would happen.
Yeah.
But even I think it was when Infamous 2 came out. That was around the time that we were going to be one of the first digital releases, and PSN went down, and this was before like Twitter was really relevant, and I think Facebook may have been. I think we had like a Facebook page or whatever, but it was one of those where we just kind of like hit it head on and tried to find ways to make it up to the community as much as possible. And if the shoe was on the other foot and it was something where our game came out, it leaked. I guarantee you that Brian and Chris Zimmerman, who are like two of the founders, would come up with something ingenious. Seriously, like those guys are like wicked smart.
Wicked smart.
Yeah.
Nice.
I appreciate the Boston accent. Even though I don't really have it, and you're not from Seattle originally. You're from.
I'm from Southern West Virginia.
Yeah, I knew it was some. I was gonna say Tennessee, but that's too far.
West by God, Virginia.
There we go. Yeah, that's the thing. Like leaking and stuff coming out. Like that's the thing. Like I always wonder why studios aren't just we meant to do that. Yeah, we totally put it out there, and now look at all the buzz we've created.
Yeah.
By our game, like.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's I don't know. I'd hate I'd hate the pressure of being in that situation.
Right.
It's like
because I know Twitch is starting to tighten down. So like, oh, if you stream it, then we're gonna ban your account or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
If you stream a game ahead of time.
Yeah. If you stream, yeah.
Yeah, which is it's great to actually have that sort of support.
So like no spoilers. Leaks. That. Yeah.
I mean, in a digital world, I think actually it becomes less of a problem because, in theory, the only way to get a copy of a game, especially if it's digital only, is to either have a code or somebody has given you, like, the build. So it's like, so they'd be able to be like, okay, the only people who've redeemed the code now are, like, these people. It's got to be one of them. Like, there's a way for them to at least track it now. It's like, it's not like, you just kind of sweet talk the old lady at Walmart to sell you the game early.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yep.
But I would still feel super nervous.
Yeah, it's something. It's always and the crazy thing is it's become more and more prominent. I mean, I still remember back on Jak and Daxter's the biggest issue and worry was piracy, and now it's just broader and broader, and it's one of those things where I think us as game devs, we've at least us veterans have hit that point where it's almost like terrorism. You just can't let it alter the way that you go about things. You can't let it be something that scares you too much. Because what I would hate to have happen is because of these sort of things, we all of a sudden as game devs kind of start to shut down.
That wasn't you. We know.
That was not you.
One of these times it is going to be me. But no, I think it's what would be the worst thing in the world is if all of a sudden game devs kind of like shut down and pulled like a Willy Wonka or whatever and wouldn't open up the doors to the candy store.
Right. Now, in a kind of sort of follow-up segue question to that, not so much leaks and how leaks affect you, but when you like tease a certain aspect of a new game or whatever, in the past, and then like there's backlash from the community about it in the sense that like you tease like some hype new thing about your game and nobody likes it or people think it's ridiculous. Like what process goes into like everybody says they don't like this new thing we've released. How do we change it to fix it? Or do you just stick with your guns and like you're like, no, we know they're going to like it when they get their hands on it?
We change it to fix it. I mean, we really do. I mean, if it's something where we've perfect example, Infamous 2, we had a specific type of power that we showed off in the E3 demo. And there was a lot of backlash to that. And it was one of those things where it's like, we had it as ready as it was going to be and working as well as it could ever work. And we listened. I think if it was something where we didn't have it completely developed all the way and we're like, yeah, we're teasing it and it's not working 100% the way that we want it to and it's not really indicative of the player experience, we may stick to our guns and kind of say, no, we can sort this out. But we really do kind of take that stuff seriously, and we do listen. And that's another great thing that I like about working at Sucker Punch is we really are great at iteration, and we have such an ingrained iteration process that were kind of like, oh, okay, well, that's not working. We're not going to do it. And here's how we're going to fill the gap. And we're going to iterate on this other thing, which is great.
That's probably the best answer I think anyone could give on that.
Yeah,
it's very good to hear that.
Well, it's nice because like you see so many times where people. My problem is I hate that people are so like
Feel entitled.
It's not even so much the entitled, but like they see something about a game and they might see like 5 minutes of gameplay or whatever more of it, and then they're immediately like, this is awful. Oh, I can't believe they did this. Like how this feeling of like they've betrayed you, and it's like, well, you haven't got the game in your hand. You don't even know what the rest of it is. Like the experience isn't 2 hours, and like this is half the game you just witnessed. Like, it's a nail biting thing.
It totally is, man.
Mike,
all right.
I know it's like a pause because I was like, Mike, do you have another question? Because I'm ready for my next question.
You can go ahead.
All right. So since you brought up E3, and I think with E3 coming up, obviously you're not going to be like, well, I know of a certain company that might be releasing a cool game. So we'll just ignore that. So we all know that every Sony development team is working on something for the PS4. So we'll ignore that as a thing. If you were going to say what Microsoft was going to show at E3, what would it be?
I think that they would most likely focus on the HoloLens stuff. Come back around to VR, which that's they're kind of taking the augmented reality route as much, like from what I've heard, and I think they're going to go really big on that at E3. And again, it comes back around to the the killer app, right? Like, in a perfect world, that's something that they're focusing on. It could be happening. I'm not sure, but I think that would be the main thing that would come from those guys.
Okay, these next questions are all E3 related. So, given that I assume you've probably been to E3 a number of times and or had games that you worked on shown at E3.
Yes.
Best E3 moment or it could be totally not from one of those moments, but I'm assuming one of your favorite moments of E3 was like when one of your games was shown off.
Yes. I definitely have my favorite moment of all time. And it was when I was working at Naughty Dog and Jak and Daxter was coming out. And myself and Eric Iwasaki, who is just a fantastic artist that I was working with, he and I worked together on this render of Jak and Daxter, with Jak running and Daxter hanging off of his armor. And it was one of those things where Jason Rubin came to us and asked us to do it, and it was one of those things where both of us were kind of like, jacks of all trade, and we were like, yeah, we'll double team this thing, and we worked our asses off, and it was one of those things where there was so much attention to detail that we weren't used to as game devs at that point in time. I mean, I was definitely still pretty fresh, but I'd been around the block at that point in time, and I was like, holy crap, the amount of detail, like attention to detail that he's giving, like, thread level detail, it's kind of crazy, and it didn't make sense. And then all of a sudden, first day of E3, and they frickin' had that huge banner on the Expo Center, and that was just insane. It was the huge, like, I don't know what it was. It was like 3 stories by 5 stories on the outside of the Expo Center, and it was the image that Eric and I worked on, and that was just so fantastic, man.
That'd have been pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's like a huge sense of accomplishment. Like, I'm sure one day when I go to E3, like that'll be the next biggest thing that I do. Second to the secret thing that I'm planning. That'll be probably up there on my list.
Which I can't wait to find out what it is, man.
I can tell you after we do the podcast, but obviously for right now, I think I totally get in game dev, right? So you probably are working on something, or just in general have worked on something that was so awesome, but it wasn't fully flushed out, or what, like it didn't work yet. And I'm the type of person that I'll have this awesome idea and I'll try to do it. If I know I'm going to try to do it, I don't want to tell anyone what it is until I'm like 90% of the way there. Because if I tell them and they're like, "Oh my God, that's the best thing ever," and then you can't do it, I feel like a huge failure. So I feel like in game dev, it's probably the same way that you'd be like, "Oh my God, guys, I figured out how to do the most amazing thing with coding." And it's like 2 lines of code, but I can't figure it out.
Yeah. It's funny, like game dev in general is exactly like that, and it should be. I think, and the main reason I said that is that I'm the absolute opposite. Like I put things out there that I just know that I want to get finished, and I know it needs to happen. And I'll put it out there before it's ready, just to put that pressure on myself to actually do it. So like that's the part where I rely on the smarter people that I've worked with in the past. There's been so many times I've worked with people and I've been like, "Oh, we gotta show this, or we gotta do this," and it just makes, and they're like, "No, man, no, just wait." I'm like, "Ah," and then of course they end up being right.
Yeah. So that's great. Mike, do you have any other questions?
Not any good ones.
Well, ask a not good question.
That's a not good question?
Yeah.
Oh, man. What do you think they're not going to show at E3? Anything delayed?
Uncharted 4.
Any big delays besides that?
Like they'll show something, I think they'll show something at Uncharted 4, like in progress work, just to keep everybody's appetite, and then that'll be it.
That, I think Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to get delayed again, or delayed.
Silent Hill.
Nope. Silent Hills.
Oh,
probably.
that was horrible. I'm gonna get completely decimated for saying that.
They're gonna tell us to take our podcast down now.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. It's my fault.
Were you excited for that game?
I didn't know what I was. It was almost like when I watched the Clueless Gamer with Mortal Kombat X, and I saw something. I was like, oh my gosh, that was done so well, but I don't know if I could actually stomach it. Like, whenever I played PT, it scared me so bad that I'm like, I don't know if I want this game to exist out there.
It's too powerful for this world.
It's too powerful, yeah.
You never got to play, did you, Andrew? Or you
never
will.
You never
would
have played it anyways. I am not a scary game person.
You should have just played it. Just
like,
tough it out. Just played it.
Billy, are you familiar with Until Dawn?
Until Dawn. That's
the one with Hayden Panettiere, whatever her name is. She's on Nashville.
Hayden Panettiere, yeah.
Yeah, that game. So at PAX Prime last year, Sarah from XDev was showing us the game, and she was like, it was like somebody was like, "Who's most likely to be scared?" And she was like, "Me." And I was like, great. So she puts me on one of the stations that's got a camera filming you. And she puts a heart rate monitor on me. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. And, we're in the booth and it's dark and you're playing the game. And like, you come to a door and you open the door and a thing pops up right in your screen, like in your face.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I was like, Jesus. And I like nearly threw the controller. And like, apparently when I got out of the booth, everyone was like, was that you? And I was like, no, must have been somebody else. So, I don't play scary games. Don't like them. Never will.
You can barely stomach Resident Evil.
Yeah, Resident Evil's tough.
I can barely stomach that.
No, I can't do it. I just can't.
It's
I'll
not that
watch
bad.
people play it, but I can't be like manning the ship.
Yeah, I still remember the first time I played Resident Evil, and that zombie turned around and looked at the camera, and it's like, just, I mean, seriously, I was at my in-laws' house, in Louisville. I mean, seriously, this is how much this has just been etched in my memory. It was in Louisville, Kentucky, and I actually wasn't in games yet. I had just graduated, and my wife and I were living out there, and we got a PlayStation, and we bought two games. One was Crash Bandicoot, and the other one was Resident Evil, and we had so much fun playing Crash Bandicoot throughout the day and everything. And then when everybody went to bed, I put in Resident Evil. And,
worst time ever.
Oh my gosh! I just remember they had a dog at the time. Her name was Penny, and she was at this point in time, she's like really old, super lazy, and she was sitting on the couch or whatever, and I was like playing, and she just basically just never did anything. And all of a sudden she picks that moment right there to put her cold nose on my elbow.
Oh.
And I end up having to apologize to her mom because I woke her up. Like I screamed so loud.
That's
it was
great.
insane. Yeah.
A similar thing kind of happened. I was playing Resident Evil 2 on N64 of all. No, had to be the GameCube one. And we were I don't know why, we were playing it like on lunch break at work. And for some stupid reason, we had the lights off in the lunchroom.
The best time.
And it was like right around that same scene because it was it had to be GameCube because it was the remake. And that like right around that same area. But it was the fact that on the remake, the dead zombies, if you didn't burn them, they came back as like faster and more aggressive.
Yep.
And so we were like totally just like, I was just like moseying around like an idiot. And all you hear is like, and then like out of nowhere, the thing hits me. And it was right at the same moment when somebody opened the door to the lunchroom. And I was just like, ah! And like, then of course I've got noise behind me. So I'm looking behind me. I'm screaming like, it was not, it was like, it was not good. And like I was worked for my family. Yeah. So it was like one of the employees seeing like the, kid of the guy who runs the place freaking out. And I was like, oh, I'm such an idiot. Oh, this is embarrassing. It's like, and we never played video games again at work.
That's too good, man.
Yeah, so I just, can't do it. I played Resident Evil 2 on PlayStation way back in the day, and I remember dying in a fire, getting attacked by zombies, and just the you're dead on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
That totally sealed the deal for me never wanting to play scary games again.
That's good.
I'll be the scary game streamer then.
Yeah, Mike plays them and I'll share play, which is great.
There you go.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's as far
as I can go.
Oh yeah, I had something similar here recently too, which was with The Last of Us, and it was such an awesome thing because I got my hands on the game a little early, and I was I came home because I was down in LA for like a shoot for like a mocap shoot or whatever, and I came back and I came home and I had the disc. It's so awesome. Sorry, I'm like rabbit trail, but like
it's okay.
The best part about it was Evan Wells had given me the game. The best part about it was the game, and it was like written in marker, that it was Last of Us, and then the case that it was in, like the jewel case that it was in, when I opened it up and I removed the CD, it was for like Rayman, or I forget now. Crap. It was for is it Toe Jam and Earl?
That's one of the games.
Well, I think I'm trying to think is one of the ones that Evan had worked on.
Oh,
and now I see I've ruined that part of the story. But the best, so basically, I get home and it's towards the evening and everything. Everybody else is getting ready for bed and everything.
So wait,
and
did you have to play it on like a debug if it was like a burned copy of the game?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but the crazy thing was like I had one at the time at the house, and so I'm sitting there playing it and everything, and I've got the sound turned up, and I'm in our playroom here, and I had talked about the game so much that my son, who at the time I think was 9, is like he's a gamer, right? And he was so super interested in it, but I'm like, dude, no way, not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And and so I come home and everybody goes to bed and stuff, and I crank it up and I start playing. And man, I forget the exact moment. I think it was like one of the first times that I was going up against a clicker in like the subway.
Okay, yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and Evan, my son, sneaks in to the playroom
Uh-oh.
and and like one of the moments when the clicker comes up and they do the little horror screen flash thing like as he's getting ready to chomp Joel, and right when that happens my son goes oh, and he like screams out, and I was like and it's one of those moments. It's the closest I've ever come to like saying the F word in front of like one of my children, and it just is like one of those like forever Frank and beans.
Yeah, supercalifragilistic.
Because now wait, was it because he scared you, or because he saw the game and you didn't want him to play it at the time?
It was at the time it was because he scared me. Like I was just completely in it. He scared me, and then it was like all this like mixed bag of emotions going along, and then the subsequent like of course for the next week he wanted to sleep with Amy and I, like my wife and I in our bedroom because
with
he
the
was
lights
so
on.
freaked out. Yeah, he was so freaked out. And every time he would kick my wife in his sleep, she'd look at me and be like, "Yeah, way to go, Dad."
Good job.
Good job, guy.
Not Dad of the Decade anymore.
Nope.
Oh, no, when I first played The Last of Us, I had to play with the lights on. I couldn't do it. You're playing with like I play with a headset, so like the sound is like you're immersed.
Yeah.
And like all you hear is that like the clicker screech.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, no. But I remember even PAX East 2013 when they demoed it, the alpha, and it was that part, the part where you go into the subway in Boston and it's like your first run in with clickers.
Yeah.
And I remember like I'm in a convention surrounded by like 50,000 people, but I've got these headset on. And it's and I jumped when one of them got me. And I'm like, everybody's probably watching me like, this kid's an idiot. But the joke was on them because I beat the game 3 different times. And because I just kept going back every morning.
Yeah.
And when I beat it the first time, that was actually how I met Eric and Arnie. Because I didn't know who they were at the time.
Yeah.
That was when I like literally was like, as never had been in the industry. I'm not really in the industry, but and they were like, you're actually one of the fastest people to finish it. Like that's not like a Naughty Dog person.
Worked on it or like
yeah. And so then that was how I became like friends with him, and then I met.
Was it Eric EP?
No, Eric Monticelli.
Oh, okay.
And then I met Vic Harris, who's one of the producers. He's an SCEA producer, but. And so that was like, and then I got I don't know if you ever saw the 3 foam bricks that they had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have all 3 of them.
Nice.
I have the T-shirt, I have the poster. Because I kept going back, and it was like, if you beat it, you get the brick. So I like made sure that every time I beat it, I got the different brick. They're actually right here on my desk. And they've been there since, since that PAX, yeah. And it was like it's the cool thing that I had. But that was my moment, when I was there and I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And, like, real quick, only because I don't want to keep you for a long time, forever.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow, cool. Look at that.
Right?
Time flies, man.
Oh, wow.
When you're having fun.
Exactly.
So I'll end it with your moment when you knew you wanted to work in the game industry, or when you knew you were. Like, when you really felt you were in it.
Oh, okay. I'll go with the latter. The latter, because I knew that I knew that I wanted to be in the games industry the moment that I found out that it's actually a
thing you
legit
could
thing.
do.
Right? Yeah, because for the longest time it was always like garage games, and it's got to be like you got to have like like five like uber smart people and parents that will buy them computers and stuff like that. But once I learned that, like, holy crap, there's actually places where you can go and you'll get paid to do this. That's when I wanted to do it. But the moment that I knew that I was a game dev was when I was working on Mark of Cree, and there was there wasn't a game, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that game at all.
I know the name, but I never played it.
Yeah, Mark of Cree it was a melee game, and it was very stylized, like stylized, geared towards like Disney or some of the Don Bluth stuff at the time, and just amazing animators, amazing team in general. But funny thing about it is like one of the art directors slash animation directors I work with now at Sucker Punch, Eric Medina, and they had a challenge, which was, even though it was a stylized game, they wanted you to be able to like chop people in half and have your blade like stick in a wall if you miss them, or one of the animations that I worked on was where you chopped a dude in half and his upper body like kept on like trying to crawl away. And but that sort of thing, this was for PlayStation 2, and that sort of thing from a rig standpoint, animation rig, and even like an engine, having props or pieces that could kind of like stay behind and you could attach and detach from hadn't really been done. And so it was a really huge challenge for like a milestone, and I took it on and worked with Rich Karp, one of the programmers, and we figured it out, and we showed it, and people were playing it, and the first time, like it was one of those things where it was my animation plus it was also my rig, and it was Rich's work, and it was stuff that we'd worked really hard on, and I didn't mean to say hard on. We were. But it was one of those things where people were like giggling and having fun and wanting to do it again and again. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm a game dev now.
I'm in it.
Yeah,
that's an awesome moment.
That's awesome. Yeah,
it's insane. It's addictive. It's one of those things that like no matter what happens, you just kind of have to look at it and say, holy crap, I've got the best job in the world.
Right?
Kind of sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
for sure.
This is why I want to work in the gaming industry so bad.
It's great.
I just gotta make it happen.
Yep.
But okay, so that I think will do it because I don't want to keep you forever.
Yeah,
So,
it won't be keeping me forever. It'll be here in just a minute. Like all the kids come and blasted.
So when we end the show, we usually give shout outs to everyone. So obviously you'll be our shout out.
Yes.
But, and we'll put your Twitter up and all that fun stuff. But do you have any shout outs? Like people you've worked with in the industry? Obviously we'll shout out Sucker Punch too, because why wouldn't we?
It's true.
Do you have any people that you want to shout out on Twitter?
Oh, let's see. Yeah, I want to shout out Art Envelope, which is Jason Connell.
I follow him. Yep.
Nate Fox, obviously, Mr. Creative from Sucker Punch. Let's see. Rick Bauer, who's one of our producers at Sucker Punch, like an awesome guy. Dave Malloy, who's new to Twitter, and he figured he just wanted to have like 25 followers or whatever, and now I've made it my mission that he's going to get flooded by them. So he doesn't know what to do. He can't handle it. So yeah, so there's some shout outs.
There we go. All right. Well, nice. I'll get the Twitters and we'll put them in the description.
Awesome.
So I
and Brian Fleming. Sorry.
Brian Fleming.
Yeah.
I'll write it down so I don't forget.
Yeah, he's one of the co-founders of Sucker Punch. Great guy. He's a real fun person to follow on Twitter.
Nice. Yeah. So we always shout out people just so that people who are listening, there's like somebody for them to follow or to see what they're up to. Obviously, this will be heavily Sucker Punch because obviously you're from Sucker Punch. Billy,
Yes.
thank you.
Oh, thank you guys. This was a blast.
Isn't it fun? Like we started doing this, and it's fun.
It's been a fun ride.
And it's so freeform. Like we don't have to really worry about topics too much. We usually kind of just think of something and then we just go.
Yeah, I love it, man. It was great.
All right, thank you, Billy. At Billy Harper 73.
Yes, Billy Harper 73
on Twitter. Follow Billy. Tell him thank you for stopping by the show. As always, this has done it for episode 21, and we will catch you. Bye.
Later.